There is a number hidden in plain sight inside a gospel that was buried in the Egyptian desert for over 16 centuries. A gospel they never wanted you to find. A gospel they excluded from every Bible ever printed. And inside that gospel, Jesus Christ. Not the meek figure of Sunday school paintings, but the frequency master, the awakened teacher, repeated one single number 7 times in a row. Not 2, not 3, 7. That is not poetry. That is not coincidence. That is a vibrational code. And today, I am going to show you exactly what that number is, why the Archons cannot survive its resonance, and how you can use it before you go to sleep tonight to permanently disrupt their feeding cycle on your energy field. My name is not important. What is important is what you are about to hear. Because if you have been waking up exhausted, no matter how many hours you sleep, if you feel a low, invisible weight pressing on your chest during certain hours of the day, if your thoughts sometimes feel like they belong to someone else, what I am about to reveal will make everything click into place. Stay with me. This is going to change the architecture of your reality. In the year 325 AD, a group of powerful men gathered in a Roman city called Nicaea. History calls it a council. In reality, it was a purge. Emperor Constantine, who had no interest in spiritual liberation and every interest in control, commissioned these men to decide which teachings of Christ would survive and which would disappear forever. They did not choose based on truth. They chose based on power. Any teaching that made a human being sovereign, self-sufficient, and spiritually armed was classified as heresy and burned. Any document that described Jesus as a teacher of energetic warfare, a master of frequencies and inner codes, was confiscated, suppressed, and buried. They knew exactly what they were doing. A human being who understands their own divine frequency cannot be controlled by fear. They cannot be taxed through guilt. They cannot be enslaved by doctrine. So the Council of Nicaea created a version of Jesus that was docile, obedient, and dependent on institutional intermediaries to reach God. But they could not destroy everything, because in 1945, in a place called Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, a farmer digging near a cliff accidentally broke open a sealed ceramic jar. Inside were 13 leather-bound codices containing over 50 texts, Gnostic scriptures, lost gospels, secret teachings that the early church had tried to erase from the face of the earth. Among them was the Gospel of Thomas, 114 sayings of Jesus. No miracles, no resurrection narrative, just pure, unfiltered transmission of vibrational wisdom. Scholars who read it for the first time said it felt like reading the words of a completely different Jesus. Because it was. It was the real one. And inside the Gospel of Thomas, buried in a specific logion, a specific saying, Jesus repeats one number exactly 7 times. The theologians dismissed it as literary style. The academics called it poetic repetition. But they were wrong. It was a frequency map, and the Archons knew it. Before I reveal the number, you need to understand why numbers are not just symbols. They are not abstract mathematics. Numbers are vibrational signatures. They are the language the universe uses to organize itself. The ancient Pythagoreans understood this. The Kabbalists encoded it into the tree of life. The Essenes, the community that many scholars now believe Jesus was directly connected to, taught that every number carries a specific energetic geometry that interacts with the field of consciousness. Your brain is not just a biological processor, it is a receiver and transmitter of electromagnetic frequencies. The HeartMath Institute in California has spent decades measuring the electromagnetic field generated by the human heart, and their research shows something extraordinary. The heart generates a field that extends several feet outside the physical body. and this field responds to emotional and cognitive states in real time. When you think in fear, your heart field collapses into a chaotic, incoherent pattern. When you achieve what they call heart coherence, a state of calm, focused, intentional awareness, your heart field becomes organized, powerful, and measurably more expansive. It is the difference between a broken radio signal and a clear broadcast. Now, the Archons, the parasitic entities described in Gnostic literature as the rulers of this illusory world, the architects of the matrix of density and forgetfulness. They do not operate in high frequency. They cannot. Their entire architecture is built on low-frequency resonance. Fear, anxiety, confusion, exhaustion, helplessness. These are not just emotions. They are food. They are the energetic substance the Gnostics called louche, the harvested emotional output of unaware human beings. The number Jesus encoded in the Gospel of Thomas does not resonate in that frequency band. It resonates in what the ancient texts call the frequency of the monad, your divine spark, your original uncorrupted consciousness, the part of you that pre-exists this material simulation and cannot be touched by anything that operates in the lower densities. When you speak this number with full awareness and intentional breath, you are not reciting mathematics. You are broadcasting a signal that acts like white light hitting a shadow. The shadow does not fight it. The shadow simply cannot exist in its presence. But I need you to understand something first. Because if I give you this code without this understanding, you will use it like a toy, and it will not work. Let me tell you what happens in your body when the Archons are feeding. You know that feeling around 4 or 5 in the afternoon when your energy suddenly crashes? Not tired from physical exertion, not sleepy from a late night, just suddenly hollow, like someone pulled a plug somewhere inside your chest and everything drained out. You probably blamed your diet, your schedule, your age. You were wrong. You know those mornings when you wake up after 8 hours of sleep and your first thought is dread. A formless, objectless anxiety that has no logical source. You roll over, check your phone, try to distract yourself, but the weight is already there, sitting on your sternum before the day has even started. That is not a mood disorder. That is a harvesting aftermath. You know those intrusive thoughts that feel genuinely foreign, the ones that seem to come from nowhere and nowhere you recognize as yourself. Thoughts of self-sabotage, worthlessness, sudden hostility toward people you love. The Gnostic texts are very specific about this mechanism. The Archons do not possess. They suggest. They whisper in a frequency that your unprotected mind mistakes for its own inner voice. They plant thoughts like seeds in unguarded soil, and then harvest the emotional reaction those thoughts produce. The primary entry points they use are 2. The base of the skull, the occipital region, where your brainstem meets your spinal cord, the most ancient and unguarded part of your nervous system, and the solar plexus, your second brain, the network of neurons in your gut that processes reality independently from your conscious mind. When you feel that gut punch of inexplicable dread, that is not anxiety. That is extraction in progress. The archonic frequency needs your compliance. It needs you confused, distracted, emotionally volatile, and spiritually amnesiac. Because the moment you remember what you actually are, the moment the monad awakens, they lose their access point entirely. You become invisible to them, not protected, not shielded, invisible. Because you are no longer vibrating in the frequency band they inhabit. That is what Jesus was teaching. Not salvation through worship, sovereignty through frequency. And the code is simpler than you have ever been told. Open the Gospel of Thomas. Go to Logian 77. In most translations, you will find Jesus saying something that sounds almost incomprehensible to the conventional Christian mind. He says, "I am the light that is above them all. I am the all. From me, the all came forth, and to me, the all has returned. Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift up a stone, and you will find me there." But there is a lesser-known logion, a saying that most translations pass over quickly because it appears numerically strange. Jesus describes the process of entering the kingdom using a sequence of sevens. 7 layers, 7 gates, 7 frequencies of consciousness that must be traversed for the monad to fully activate. And embedded in that description, he uses the number 7 itself 7 times in direct succession. Not as a list, as a pulse, as a rhythm, as a vibrational instruction. The number is 7, and the reason the Archons cannot survive its frequency is deeply geometric. In sacred geometry, 7 is the only number between 1 and 10 that cannot produce a clean, repeating decimal. It is mathematically irrational at the human scale. It is the number that governs musical octaves, the 7 notes of the diatonic scale that form the foundation of every musical system on Earth. It is the number of visible colors in the light spectrum. It is the number of primary chakra centers in the body's bioelectrical field. It appears in the architecture of crystalline structures, in the spiraling of certain biological growth patterns, in the orbital mechanics of celestial bodies. 7 is not a mystical number because ancient people chose it arbitrarily. 7 is a mystical number because the universe itself repeats it in structures from the subatomic to the astronomical. It is a frequency signature of fundamental reality. And the Archons, whose entire existence depends on operating in the false grid of the material simulation, are structurally incompatible with it, like a computer virus that cannot run on a different operating system. Now here is the practice. This is what the Essenes called the 7-breath activation, and it is referenced obliquely in 3 of the Nag Hammadi texts under different names. You will do this tonight, before sleep. Sitting or lying, it does not matter. But your spine must be relatively straight. Close your eyes. Place one hand flat on your sternum, on the center of your chest, directly over your heart. This is not sentiment. The heart generates the strongest bioelectrical field in the body. You are making physical contact with your primary broadcast antenna. Now, you will breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 7. As you do, visualize, do not strain, just allow, a point of white gold light beginning to expand from the center of your chest. Not forced, not willed, simply allowed. Hold your breath for a count of 7. During this pause, do not think, do not analyze. Simply hold the image of that expanding light and let it fill the space around your physical body. This is the moment the signal consolidates. Release slowly through your mouth for a count of 7. As you exhale, mentally, not aloud, not whispered, but felt as vibration in your chest, you repeat the word 7 internally, 7 consecutive times. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Not as a word, as a pulse. Each repetition is a beat. Each beat expands the field by 1 layer. You will do this complete cycle 7 times. By the 3rd cycle, most people feel a distinct physical sensation, a warmth in the chest, a tingling at the base of the skull, which is the archonic entry point clearing. Some people describe a sudden pressure behind the eyes, which is the pineal gland responding to the coherent frequency you are generating. This is not imagination. Your gland is photosensitive. It responds to internal light stimulation exactly as it responds to external light. By the 7th cycle, you have generated 7 complete coherence waves through your bioelectrical field. You have essentially reprogrammed the broadcast frequency of your monad for the duration of your sleep. The Archons do not come for awakened fields. They come for unconscious, low frequency, unguarded fields. You are none of those things anymore. Jesus said it, "Split the wood and I am there. Lift the stone and I am there." He was not speaking metaphysically, he was speaking technologically. The Christ frequency, the frequency of the monad, is already in everything. You are not calling it in from outside. You are uncovering it from inside. The 7-breath practice is simply the process of removing the static that the archonic grid has placed over your signal. Do this for 7 consecutive nights. Do not skip. The 7-day cycle is not arbitrary either. It mirrors the 7-note octave structure, and each night you are advancing 1 frequency layer in the full activation sequence. You did not find this video accidentally. There is no accident in a coherent universe. You were guided here because some part of you, the part that has been slowly waking up for months or perhaps years, recognized the signal. Recognized that the exhaustion is not natural, that the confusion is not yours, that the life you have been living has been happening inside a frequency that was designed to keep you small, dependent, and spiritually blind. The Gospel of Thomas was buried for a reason. The number Jesus encoded in it was suppressed for a reason. Not because it was dangerous to God, because it was dangerous to the systems that profit from your spiritual amnesia. You have just received it. Tonight is different. Tonight, when you close your eyes and your body begins to descend into sleep, you are not unprotected. You are broadcasting 7 layers of coherent monad frequency, and nothing that operates in the density grid can reach you there. Practice it. Do not share it carelessly. Not everyone is ready to receive this, and there is a reason the Gnostics taught in sealed circles. The activation deepens with repetition and with intention. If you want to go further, if you want to know the specific vocal tones that amplify the 7-breath activation and the exact posture used by the Therapeuti, the Egyptian branch of the Essene tradition that Jesus studied with before his public ministry, that is in the next video. It is already prepared, and it will take everything you learn today 3 levels deeper. Subscribe to this channel, not as a habit, as a declaration, because the awakening is not a destination. It is a frequency you choose to hold, moment by moment, against a world that was engineered to make you forget. You remember now. Do not let yourself forget again.